Welcome to Sober and Lit,
the podcast for women who want to get sober, stay sober, and live a life that's way more lit than it ever was with wine.
We're your hosts, Ruby and Susan, two alcohol freedom coaches keeping it real with stories, tools, and zero judgment.
Whether you're sober curious or all in, you're in the right place.
Let's feel lit, alcohol free. Welcome back to the Feel It Alcohol Free podcast. We're so excited to have you listeners on, and we have a special guest today. We have Lauren O'Hanlon, known by many as Coach Lo. She's a certified life coach who helps people change their relationship with alcohol in a way that's empowering, science-based, and rooted in self-compassion. A former bartender and ex-mommy wine culture enthusiast, Lauren found herself deep in the narrative that wine was a reward for motherhood. The escape, the self-care, that badge of survival. And like so many women, she didn't identify as having a problem, but alcohol was slowly taking up more space than she was comfortable with. And she started questioning the role it played in her life. And she got curious instead of judgmental. And that shift changed everything. So now she helps others do the same through coaching, content, community. Lauren supports people in making alcohol small and irrelevant so they can live big with clarity, confidence, and full control. So her approach is never about perfection or pressure. It's about creating freedom on your own terms. So welcome, Lauren. Hi.
Hi. Thank you, ladies. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So we got to meet in person in a training that we did. And so I know, a little bit about your story, and I'm just so excited to dive right into kind of the topic of hiding drinking, because from the outside, at least I felt this way too, like I had it all together, but what was really happening with you, behind closed doors?
Behind closed doors, it's like that saying, it's like you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And on the outside, everything was perfect. And behind my closed door was a lot of, a really hard time in my marriage, very hard time. And there was alcohol there to kind of take the reins, to settle the stress, to settle the discomfort. And that led, as you're in the intro, that led to me hiding wine in my closet and my bathroom cabinet and my, just all around in the places that I knew where to find them, but that others probably wouldn't find them.
Why did you feel like you needed to hide it? I'm just curious.
Because when I was having such issues in my marriage, and it actually wasn't from my drinking, but I had to hide it because I didn't want my husband to know how much I was drinking. Because in the mommy wine culture, when I would go to play dates, when I would take my kids to karate or to soccer, I would already have something in my cup, and not to get drunk, just because it's like, hey, we're going and the other moms are drinking too, and let's do this. And then I wanted my husband to come home and see that I had just cracked open a bottle of wine and not really, the few glasses that I had before he got home with my hidden bottle. So I just didn't want him to know. Bottom line.
Makes so much sense. Yeah. Because, the nature of alcohol is it keeps increasing, and in your tolerance and the amount, it gets earlier in the day. That's just what happens with alcohol and addiction. And so, what was really like the hardest part? Or tell me a little bit more about this hiding drinking.
Well, and you touched on it just now, Ruby. It's like my tolerance was going up. Being a bartender for over 20 years, I had gained a really good, really high tolerance. There was a lot of times that I would have been almost maybe a bottle of wine deep, and they had no idea that I had even been drinking. And that used to be worn as a badge of honor. I used to think that was like, hey, oh no, I'll be fine, like whatever. And then later on in the journey, it was like, oh my gosh, how can I have this much and not even be feeling it? And I think that that's why I started hiding it is because like a couple glasses before my husband got home, that was just my warm up. That was my appetizer. As time went on, he couldn't tell as much if I'd been drinking, again, because the tolerance was going up. But at the end of the day, your spouse or your partner, they usually can at least see that change in your eyes. But he wasn't letting on that he knew that I was probably having a little bit more than I needed to, than I could have or should have.
Yeah. My husband used to say the same thing. Like he used to travel a lot and he would say, when I would talk to him on the phone, he'd go, I could always tell if you'd had wine when we were talking. And now when he even has one drink, I can tell, which I mean, not the alcohol police, but I can totally tell the difference just in his eyes. His eyes just get a little squintier, which is so interesting. But it's also so amazing how our bodies can adapt to this drug of alcohol that we're putting in it, but also need more, and how the world and our culture sees that as a badge of honor. But the reality is that that is a sign of addiction and dependence. And isn't that crazy? You know, the more you need and more and more and more you need is showing that your body is adapting and becoming maybe dependent.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought that my badge of honor was that I could keep up my drinking with the guys, you know, like I could drink like one of the guys and go for shot and do all these ludicrous things. But when you don't know what you don't know, you think it's, oh, this is great. This is this great lifestyle. This is so much fun. And then when you do know what you know, it's like, oh, ouch.
I know. And also the other information that most people don't know is that our bodies, women's bodies, do not metabolize alcohol the same way as men's. We can't handle the same amount. But here now in our culture, it's like, yeah, women keeping up with the guys is a thing. And all this is so negative.
And people probably did know. Now that I'm alcohol free, I just like you guys, I saw it in the eyes, or I could hear it in the voice of other people, even on the phone. So it makes me think my hiding wasn't really that hidden a lot of the time. How many times was I at a sporting event and I would have wine in my cup or water bottle? You know, I would hide it. But do people smell it? Do people know? It's kind of mortifying now thinking about that. I probably wasn't hiding it as well as I thought.
Well, exactly. And like there was little things such as bringing, you know, my Yeti with champagne in it to the playground and being so scared that one of my kids was going to come up and take a drink and then out me to everybody. And, you know, and again, like that was having a drink, like bringing a drink to a playground. I don't even, you know, morning, afternoon, who knows, and then driving my kids home, you know, but I felt fine because my tolerance was high and, you know, so it's that like vicious cycle. I don't know.
I did have my son do that once. He was older though. He was probably 17, 18, and I had it in a water, you know, like I said, it was water. And I was sipping it, and all of a sudden he grabbed it. I'm thirsty. And he was like, like, what are you drinking? I'm laughing now, but yeah. And then I was really embarrassed because
I was going to say, I know that at the playground, that would have been my thing. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah. But then the mommy wine culture now, though, they're not embarrassed. Like when I see the stuff on social media, everyone's like, woohoo, guess what's in my Yeti? You know, like we're all bringing our Yetis to the playground, and what's in your cup at the boring baseball game? Because I mean, let's face it, T-ball is like watching paint dry, you know? So all the moms are, you know, sitting around pouring drinks for each other, you know, just to get through it. But they're celebrating.
What's it really like, Lauren, like this mommy wine culture?
So it's, first of all, it's everywhere. For me, what it was like was, you know, wearing my Mamacita Needs a Margarita tank top and going to the playground with the parents that I knew would drink with me. And that was most of them. And, you know, my neighbors, our kids were around the same age. And so we would have play dates, and it would be like bringing a bottle of wine to the play date, or there was a playground not too far from our house. So if we were meeting at the playground, the playground was right behind a grocery store. So it'd be like, okay, I'm going to go over and get the, little 4-pack of splits, or get, whatever we could kind of sneak into the diaper bag without people that weren't drinking at the playground noticing. But it was so easy to do too, and it was like, I had my mom juice cup, and my sons would call my white wine Mama Apple Juice. So they knew not to drink that.
Yeah, it started for me when I had my best friend watching my son, and she would watch him. I think he was in second grade. I think this is where it really kind of started, where I would pick him up after work. She would watch him after school until I got off work, and we would always sit for another hour and drink an entire bottle of wine together. And that's where it just like started. And then for me, I think it just like normalized, like you said, okay, this is what mommies do. When we have play dates, we have the wine or drink.
Yeah. So I don't live far from the beach, and there's this little ice cream shop that's, at the beach. And then conveniently, directly next door is a tequila bar. Well, it's a Mexican restaurant, but it's got a bar right next to the ice cream thing, where it was my tequila bar. I would get my kids their ice cream, thinking that I'm mom of the year, and set them up, at a nice little table outside where I could see them. They're only feet away. And I would walk up to the bar and get a margarita or two, or a double, or whatever, and then sit and enjoy, quote unquote, my treat, and while my kids had their treat. And it was like, I always say that it was their favorite ice cream shop, but it was my favorite ice cream shop because I could have a drink there.
I love that you're being so vulnerable and honest, because these are like the deepest secrets, that I would go to my son's wrestling meets. Is I would go there and it would be in my glass, and I would never tell anybody, but yet we're so vulnerable, because we want you, if you are listening to this and you're in this mommy wine culture, you're not alone,
Yeah.
So
and
great.
How normalized it is. It's just crazy how that's normalized to, go get your supplies. Like you said, go to the store, I'll go get the supplies,
But there's something about you surround yourself with the mommies that are drinking, right? So these are your pals, and then it just ramps up from there.
And another aspect to mommy wine culture that I think is a big one, and that was for me, was, a lot of times, going back to you don't know what happens behind closed doors. A lot of times people are in these marriages or relationships where it's just not going well. You're either not happy, or something else bad is going on. And so you are, you're going out with your kids, you're drinking to cope at this point. Like, that's kind of where my drinking changed from like drinking for fun to then all of a sudden it was like drinking to cope. And then it was like, oh, okay, now the snowball's rolling. But so, you have these moms that are going out and drinking on these play dates, and then going home either with a buzz or something. And who knows what's going on behind closed doors. It feels like that vicious cycle. It felt like a vicious cycle for me, because it's like, you don't know. I didn't know any different. And I also didn't know how to cope with being so unhappy. And alcohol was just there to answer every need that I had.
Right. Give all the jobs. So was there like a moment when you knew that something had to change? Did something happen?
So, this will kind of be me being vulnerable again, but I had hired a divorce lawyer, and because it got so bad, and it was around alcohol. And I knew that I needed to be clear-headed for our kids, for, with my husband and I met in the bar industry. Mm-hmm. And so there was always a lot of drinking. There was always a lot of like late nights and, things like that. And so my turning point was when I was drinking to cope. Then I was doing and saying things that I didn't mean, that I didn't want to be doing. I was just in such a low place. And finally, I'm like, if I am going to be clear-headed and do this, if I'm going to do this, I need to be clear-headed. And I found Annie Grace's podcast, and I wasn't trying to quit drinking when I found her. I was trying to understand alcohol and behavior change, why I could be in love with somebody who was so different when you added alcohol. And in listening to her podcast, she started talking about like alcohol free and not drinking. And I was like, nope, I'm not the one with the problem, and then the awareness factor really started playing in of, oh my gosh, this is actual poison. And I would tell people at the bar, pick your poison. And oh my gosh, I'm on antidepressants, which actually I still am, but I was on antidepressants and feeling lows, and alcohol, it heightens depression, causes depression, anxiety. And it was like all of these things that I didn't realize. My older sister, she passed of cancer. And when she was diagnosed as terminal, but they told her not to drink alcohol. And I'm like, you're going to diagnose her like this and tell her that she can't drink alcohol? Like, what is going on with that? And then I find out, what it does with cancer, related to cancer. And so all of these things really started just like popping up all at the same time, all when I was going to get divorced, when I was, like all of this awareness, it all just kind of happened all at once. And I do want to say that we just celebrated our 11-year anniversary. There is no more alcohol in our house, and it changed everything. Wow. Everything. So, for those listening that might be relating right now, like there is hope. There is certainly hope.
Yeah, I can relate to that because my relationship totally changed. And I wasn't to the point of like hiring a divorce lawyer at all, but I was thinking, I don't know if I can be alcohol free and stay married. Right. And because my drinking, I would say, was like go along to get along drinking. But like you said, to cope, right? But I realized half of our problems were because both of us had been drinking and were saying things that we didn't really mean or wouldn't say if we weren't, slightly tipsy or even drunk, right? And and so everything changed. And I started to apply some of the principles from this naked mind to my thoughts and beliefs about my husband. Old tapes, that just they pop up, and it changed everything. It changed everything. So I'm so happy for you.
Me too.
Oh,
I'm so glad. That's awesome.
In the beginning, when I didn't think that my drinking was any problem, I didn't think that I'd want to be married to somebody that didn't drink, so it's like, I didn't want to tell him not to drink because it's like, how do I navigate that? Like, and now, wow, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
A whole different relationship.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so congratulations. Yeah. So oftentimes I hear from clients and other people that sometimes the getting alcohol free can improve the marriage, right? And sometimes though you end up getting a divorce.
Right.
I hear both ways, you guys. What about with your friends and social life? And what happened after going alcohol free for you, Lauren?
Yeah. So since I was bartending, most of my friends are and were still in the industry. And so it was really, it was one of those things that I kind of tiptoed around because I didn't, for like the first year of not drinking, I didn't tell a whole lot of people. Now I love it. Now you ask me if I drink, I proudly say no. Yes. Woohoo! But it was a little bit tough in the beginning for me to navigate. And then as more time went on and I started to feel more comfortable, it started to, just kind of start to become second nature. So it's one of those things that for me, it took time. And that's my best advice to anybody out there is that it takes time.
Yeah, it's a progression of getting more and more comfortable with your new identity because it is a new identity. And one question I have, what do you wish someone had said to you when you were still drinking?
When I was still drinking, I think that I wish someone would have told me the harms of it. Honestly, I wish that I would have known the truth other than the societal conditioning. because alcohol was such a huge part of my life, my whole life, my entire life. It was my social identity, being a bartender. And I wish that I knew sooner that it was a toxin and that it causes 7 different types of cancer and all of the, anxiety, depression, sleep, all of the things. So I just wish I knew a little bit sooner. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. And then drinking a whole bottle of wine is not normal.
Right. Right.
Sometimes I get clients and they're like, well, I'm pretty much a normal drinker. I have like 3 glasses of wine a night. And I'm like, that is not normal. Right. But we've normalized it in our society. Most people think that's normal. Most people think that's moderate drinking.
Well, and especially if you're in the industry, because I was in the wine industry, everybody's drinking that much. And then they're always upping and, I would go to a party or something and each of us would bring a bottle of wine or 2 bottles. I mean, it was all, and it was the best, so I totally get it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was wondering though, if we go back to the mommy wine, like what's it like now that you're alcohol free and an alcohol free coach and you're seeing this because you still have young kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I see it everywhere still. And on my social media, I did a video when I was at one of my kids. It was soccer, or football, I can't remember. And there was like a cooler of White Claws and I declined. And I was like, wow, Lauren, a few years ago would never have declined. I probably would have been the one pushing the cooler. But I do see it everywhere still. Kids' birthday parties. My next week, actually, one of my sons will be 9. And at his first birthday party, I'll have to show you guys the picture. It was just so much liquor, coolers of beer. And this is a first birthday party. Now I just love being present with my kids. I love not bringing a full glass of wine with ice cubes to make it last longer and stay colder to story time. I just love being at the games and being present. And to the parents that I do see drinking, I get it. It's like I have been there and I know exactly where they're at. And the more times the more comfortable that I have been telling, other people, other parents and things like that, what I do, usually they're like, yeah, I really probably should kind of slow down my drinking. And, and I probably would have said that to somebody who, when I was back in my drinking days, I probably would have said that to somebody too, but never thought twice about it,
Yeah. So has any of your friendships changed? Because I know we tend to surround ourselves with the people who do the same things that we do to kind of validate it. And then when we change, and that's sometimes the biggest fear of clients that I work with is how is my social life going to change? Am I going to have any friends? Are they going to stop inviting me if I'm not drinking? Because I'm kind of showing up with a mirror going, you're drinking too much, that feeling of them not wanting you around.
Right. My friends were surprised. I was very surprised. And I don't know why, because they're absolutely fantastic people. But I was really surprised how accepting they were and are, how I do still get invited, the relationships are still there, but they are a little bit different because I don't want to be necessarily going out after dinner, going to dinner and then going out to the bar after, so it's like, while we're still friends, it's just, I have set up kind of that, I don't know if boundary is the right word, but just, I stay in a line with what I want to be doing. So they're still there, they're accepting. It's changed a little bit because I've changed a little bit.
Right. Sounds like you're more in line with your values and creating these boundaries. I'm so similar. It's like the relationships and friendships. I mean, they've changed a little bit, but I do different things too. Like I'm not going to go wine tasting. I know Susan and I, though, went to a winery once, but we found a winery that had alcohol-free wine. And that was really interesting experience. But like, I'm not going to do all the same things. I like to say with clients, like, switch it up. Instead of happy hour, how about coffee, in the morning? Or instead of dinner, if, maybe lunch. You could switch things up a little bit and still have your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so great. That's so great. And I know a lot of times clients say they realize their friends didn't drink as much as they thought. And they were the ones that were pushing the drinks, And when they get together with their friends, they're like, oh, it's okay. I don't need to drink. No big deal. And they're like, oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I've noticed that too. And it always had made me wonder, like, wow, how do they just not like want to drink, like I was always down for a mimosa if it was breakfast. I wasn't looking to get wasted. I wasn't waking up and, pouring my alcohol, but I was always down for it. Yeah.
Well, and this idea of using it like in small doses, I've encountered that with clients too, where they're like, I don't get drunk. I just sip on it all day.
Yeah.
Or all afternoon, to just sort of take the edge off all afternoon and, Prosecco. But by the end of the night, it's a whole bottle.
Right.
But then that feels okay because I'm never drunk. But but that's still that amount in your body and what that's doing. Yeah. And are you really clear-headed and you don't notice because of the tolerance, right? So and that's normalized too. There's so many things that are normalized that when we really look at them and then you look at the science behind what's going on in your brain and body, and more evidence that's coming out now where the World Health Organization, the American Cancer Society, they're all saying there's no healthy amount of alcohol, which, is people still don't believe me if I tell them that. They're like, no, if it helps with stress, isn't that healthy? Somebody said that to me once. I'm like, well, it doesn't actually help with stress. There's science behind that too. Yeah.
It's like that, the confirmation bias that we talk about a lot. When I was pregnant and, I'm just going to admit this because I know that if I did it, there's other women out there that did it. And I Googled how much wine can you drink while you're pregnant? And if it said none, then I went to the next website. And, it's like, we're constantly searching for things that are going to validate, what we're thinking or what we're wanting. And, when there was something that popped into my head a little bit earlier when we were talking about how it's just everywhere, the morning show that I watch is, I would say probably most weeks at least have 1 to 2 segments that involve alcohol, whether it's the anchors that are drinking it or a segment on like these new summer cocktails that are coming out these shows are on while my kids are still getting ready for school. Mm-hmm. And they see at such a young age just how it's everywhere. And so it's like, no wonder we have grown up just kind of thinking that alcohol is like the super glue.
Yeah, we do have a climb here. And I want to go back to when you said the one thing you wish you knew was that the science behind it and what a toxin it was. I think that we all saw those articles, but we just didn't look at them. Like, I know for a fact, I was looking for the articles that said red wine, it has antioxidants, is heart healthy.
Yes.
The Italians and the French drink it, so it's heart healthy. And then if I saw that article that it gives you breast cancer, I'd be like, nope, I'm not going to, so I think maybe it's out there, but it's out there way more now. I do think this alcohol-free movement is underway. People are starting to know.
Things are changing a little bit.
Well, Lo, this is the part of our episode where we like to, it's my favorite part because I always like to find out, what do you do to feel lit, alcohol free? Yeah.
Yeah. So on Sundays, instead of drinking mimosas now, I play softball. And have for a few years now. I take my kids to the pool. I love to run. I love to just be outdoors now. I love to read. I love to puzzle. I love to color in a coloring book, things that I never ever thought that I would like to do when I was drinking. So yeah, I think really being out and being present and filling in my Sundays with something that honors my body and my mind and my soul, really, as opposed to just drowning it out all day with mimosas.
So good. So good. Yeah, I really relate. Yeah, after going alcohol free, just being outside, so many hobbies and projects, and the world just opened up immensely.
It really did. Like I discovered, I got myself a Cricut machine and started like making things with that, things that I would have never thought in a million years that I could be creative. And so, yeah, a lot of doors open up when you remove booze.
What's a Cricut machine? I was like, wait, what's that?
I know. So I make like coffee mugs, and you can make t-shirts, like print things on t-shirts, and like vinyl things like car stickers, and just a bunch of fun little things. Like I just mailed yesterday Coach Darcy a coffee mug that I made for her. So yeah, so just little fun activities that keep my mind going, that keep my mind happy.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to be said for hobbies and creativity. I mean, it pours in so many good, feel good chemicals to your brain, and just how much is available to us when we eliminate alcohol. So great. Yeah. We were meant to be creative. So yeah, and not waste our life drinking.
Well, awesome. Lauren, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. And I know that you're really relating to so many people out there that are in the same place. And if you are there, how can people connect with you, find out about you?
Yes. So my website, it's CoachLaurenO'Hanlon.com. So coach and then my name.com. And that is my social media handles also. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah. Coach Lauren O'Hanlon.
Awesome. Keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple, easy breezy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We loved having you on our show. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, ladies. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Sober and Lit podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps get the word out.
And remember, do something today to help you feel lit.
See you next week.